Hey guys, I'm Brenda Breland and I'm here to chat all things health, fitness, mindset, and business. I will be sharing how transforming my body allowed me to transform my life and how you can do the same. So grab a cup of coffee or your favorite cocktail. I'm so excited you're here. Let's get unfiltered. I would love to welcome Dr. Andrew Shepard to Unfiltered. Welcome, Dr. Shepard. How are you?
I am awesome, Brenda, and thank you for the invitation. I'm super excited to be able to hang with you today and hopefully share some gems.
Yes, I am so excited for this. I think so many of my followers, not only on social, but those who have been listening to the podcast, this is something that they've really been wanting. And I think there's like a little bit of a gap in the space when it comes to hormone health and just women's health in general. And I'm super excited to get your perspective on
For
some things
sure.
and for you to share some nuggets and knowledge. So let's jump into this with, you sharing with us kind of how did you get started, in the functional medicine field, and what has kind of driven you to kind of dig more into helping people in general, not just women, in these areas when it comes to finding alternative medicines and ways to heal themselves from the inside out.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it was a little bit of a selfish journey because I got super frustrated myself. I realized that I wanted extra help as a performance athlete all my life. And as a doctor who recommends and lives and breathes wellness and anti aging, I was stuck. I couldn't find somebody else to help me. So I thought, well, you know what? I've got to go back to school. I've got to dig a little deeper. I've got to find out where there's a disconnect between the model which we have in the US today, which is a sickness model, and an actual wellness model. And there's a big disconnect there. You know, most people unfortunately wait till the last minute until there's a crisis before they see a doctor, irrespective of what specialty. Uh, I wanted to have people come to see me and to give advice to people globally who weren't there. They wanted to be more well. They wanted to change lifestyles. They wanted to change habits. So as I started my own personal journey, I saw things that worked. I saw things that didn't work. And I started collaborating with other people that I found were in that same space, just kind of under the radar. The wellness movement per se really is still seen as alternative, still seen as why would I spend my time doing that? I'm just not sick, so I'm okay. So yeah, that's kind of what started it for me.
Yeah, and I love that because I think that too is where a lot of people nowadays they're kind of having to get to the point of like they have to take control of their own health in order to make these changes, because like you said, we're not really getting it in the areas where we're
Right.
taught to go ask for that help, right?
Correct.
So, with that being said, when we talk about women's health, because that's the number one thing, we're here to talk about, because that's how we got connected. And
Right.
we work directly with my clients and helping them achieve so many of these goals. So, what do you feel is the number one thing that is missing when it comes to women's health in, today's US medicine?
Yeah, I really think the biggest thing is we are taught and have been for years via the media. Every magazine you open, there's articles for the next latest greatest medication. We see bombarded. You can't watch a television show without 20 pharmaceutical commercials being there. So this is what we're being bombarded with, which has trained the population to ask your doctor if this medication is right for you. So people are sitting at home, they're on WebMD, Googling things,
Mhm.
coming up with 20 million diagnoses themselves, and going into a doctor's office and saying, this is what I think is wrong with me. I saw this. Can we try that?
Mhm.
So I feel like there is a difference between somebody taking responsibility and an interest in their own healthcare and being proactive, and then the doctor feeling like, well, I'm on a limited time. This is what the client is asking for from me. I triaged out enough to make this, well, let's give it a shot kind of thing. So I think there's really a big disconnect there between their healthcare. And I think it's very symptom driven. And if they're not having a symptom, not experiencing something, I think the world we live in today is very, very fast paced. It's very stress loaded, and everybody is bouncing a lot of balls in the air. And many times things drop. And I find, particularly with women who are trying to do everything for everybody else, their self-care seems to go to the bottom of the pile more often than not. You know, as a businesswoman, as a mother, as a wife, as a volunteer for the 20 things you guys seem to sign up for all the time.
Right.
You know, I'm preaching to the choir. You do all
Right.
this.
Yes. Yes.
So oftentimes, unless you're really driven, really motivated, and you're in that space, you let yourself go because you're not the priority until there's a crisis. So I would like to see more of a focus on a prevention model for women's health. Let's not wait, because at the end of the day, if you cannot take care of yourself and you're not in a great place, your mindset's not right, your health is not right, your energy levels are not right, every other thing filters down. So it's going to affect how you have an interaction with every single relationship. Whereas if you were able to say, you know, it's okay to have some me, I am going to put a little portion as a priority, and I come first so that I can do everything else for everybody. So I think that's the biggest shift that I would like to see, going away from a sick model to a wellness, prevention, anti-aging model. It seems so many of my clients come to me, and I hate it when I hear it's tough getting old, or it's just because of my age. And no, our bodies were designed to be healthy and well until the day that you expire. You're not supposed to be okay with aches, pains, arthritises, chronic lifestyle diseases that we see so much more of, like cancers, diabetes. You know, 50 years ago, the instances of those were far, far less. Now we have probably 25, 30 diseases that didn't even exist 100 years ago because we've had to put a label on something and find a condition. That to me is not healthcare. That's just simply being reactive. So yeah, that's
Yeah. And I think, you said something, we're treating the symptoms. And I think this is something a lot of women, we get stuck in thinking that like symptoms and things that we're experiencing are something that we just need to deal with and live with. And we try to fix those things rather than really getting to the root cause. Like, let's put a Band-Aid on this here, on my fatigue.
yes.
Let's put a Band-Aid on my, low libido. Maybe I just need to spice it up. No, like that's normally not the problem, right?
Right.
And but that's what society's telling us. They're trying to sell us all these things that's just going to put Band-Aid fixes on them, rather than saying really what are causing these quote unquote symptoms and getting to the root cause and taking the time again, because time's another thing. Is we're taught so much, we like fix it here and now, like how quickly can we fix it? Well, in reality, that's not sustainable, and that's not going to actually fix the root cause issue. So I love that, your mission is to really teach women and help coaches like me be able to help women learn their bodies and really get that overall metabolic, physical, and mental health. Because like you said, that's what's going to make us have the longevity that we want. And
yes.
I personally believe that we have a lot better ability as humans to live than what the standard says for us. It's just whether or not we're willing to take the steps that we need to get there.
I think you hit on something super important too, Brenda, when you just said, fix it quick, fix it now. That is the mentality. And, as you well know, and I'm going to say the exact same thing, there is no magic pill. There is no, I've been living with this or dealing with this for 5 minutes, 5 years, 50 years. I need it gone now. That is not a reality. So I think what we're both trying to do is show people that you have to make sustainable lifestyle decisions and choices and continue down that path. And that is a journey. It isn't a destination. So there is no, and now everything is great. So I think that was important that you touched on that.
Yeah, it's the long game. I mean, we're all in this for the long game. And that's that mentality shift that we have to make. And actually, I talked about this yesterday on Instagram, because I think we all need to be reminded of this so many times, is whether it's in our body and our mental health and our relationships and our business, we have to remember that although society is going like a million miles an hour and telling us we need this right now, right here, whatever it is, if we want sustainability, no matter what we're doing, we need to play the long game. And the long game is what's sustainable, not the quick results, whatever whatever it is you're looking for.
100%.
So I think that's a good segue into, talking a little bit more about hormones and fixes, quote unquote, fixes for hormones. Because I think now more than ever, we're seeing, especially in social media, women are waking up to hormones are issues. This is something we're not taught until, menopause. And at that point, it's very hard. Like you said, it takes time to fix these things. And when you're 50 plus, 60 plus, it's just harder. So women under the age of 40, 30, 30 to 40, 30 to 50 are starting to think about these things. But we're also seeing now a lot of products coming out saying, I help support hormones. I help, do these things. And these are like energy drink companies, right? That are putting these
Yeah.
things out. So for people who are listening and they're seeing these things that are out there, what do you recommend they look for in it, or even if they should be looking in that direction, as far as actual help for support for hormones and products?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's a super broad question too.
Yes.
Marketing, and in social media have a big part to play in everybody's lives these days, and it can be extremely misleading because, frankly, it's not well regulated at all. So the claims that you're able to make, particularly on nutritional type supplements, hormone supports that are quote unquote natural, it's super poorly regulated. So my biggest recommendation on that is stay away. What they prey on is a little information is a dangerous thing. So people start to get interested, they start to get educated, they read a little, then they have these key phrases, they have these hot buttons stuck in their mind. So now a commercial comes across, or they're reading a magazine article, and it's like, oh, help balance your hormones, increase your energy, live longer,
suppress your appetite, which is
right?
crazy to me, because we're going to fix hormones and suppress appetite at the same time. For most
Right.
women, I'm like that
Yeah,
that's like, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but continue.
Yeah. So stay away is my
Yeah.
biggest advice on that. I think specifically related to hormones, we have to take more control and pay attention to how we feel in our body. We also have to understand that the environment has changed, the playing field has changed. Here's an example by what I mean by that, specifically related to women, because cosmetics are full of hormone inhibitors. Okay. Now, your average woman, by the time she's reached the age of 35, has ingested 10 kilograms of lipstick. Just think about that for a minute. Now, of course, the real question is, how many kilograms have the men ingested by the time they're 35 vicariously?
Not me over here wiping off my lip gloss.
Right. So let's just touch on that just for a second, because it's important. There are petrochemicals and there are carcinogens that are in 95% of all cosmetics. Now, you think from a very, very young age, particularly women, eyeliner, makeup, lipstick, lotions, hair dyes, all kinds of things, right? So those are all known hormone inhibitors. I think that is one of the major reasons today that we see, more so than we have 100 years ago, estrogen dominance, and estrogen dominance particularly in men as well, because we are surrounded by all of these neurotoxins, excitotoxins, hormone inhibitors. Take soy for an example. By itself, a soy product is fine in moderation, but it also contains a significant amount of phytoestrogens. Now, if you're eating packaged food on a regular basis, when you look at the back of every single packaged food, there's usually soy lecithin or soy protein isolate, something soy. So man's changed that. It's now gone from something that the body sees as a natural, healthy food to actually a toxin. So you can just continue to add on top of add on top of add, and very quickly, your hormones are a mess, and you haven't even realized that it's happened. So I think we need to pay more attention to that. If you are feeling lethargic, if you have low libido, if you have changes in your hair, skin, and nails, that's probably not just because you're getting older. That's a warning sign. Your body gives you symptoms as a way to say, it's time to wake up and figure out what is dysfunctional here. But many times we just ignore that. I'm going to touch back onto, because this is something that I think is a problem in the medical industry. The solution for so many women's problems is just take this birth control.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. That is something
Right,
that absolutely drives me crazy.
right,
Absolutely. I'm
right.
just, yes, please go on this.
You want to imbalance your hormones in a heartbeat. You want to get estrogen driven. You want to have mood swings like crazy. Yeah, let's get on the birth control. I'm not a fan. It really is. And we're seeing young women, as young as 11 and 12 and 13 being put on these birth controls, sometimes to regulate acne, sometimes to regulate mood, sometimes to stop a period, start a period. I mean,
Mhm.
how about we dig a little deeper and find out what actually created that issue in the first place? Is there a diet lack? Is there too much stress? The neurotransmitters out of balance? Are the hormones completely out of balance? So testing is super, super important. Before I do anything with hormones, I want to have baselines. We need to
Mhm.
know. We don't want to just read the latest, greatest thing out there and say, well, let's just try this. Why would you want to make your body a human experiment? How about we get the information that we need first? Now, the gold standard for the androgen hormones, your estrogens, your progesterones, testosterones, is going to be a saliva test because it shows what is bioavailable to the body rather than just what's floating around in the bloodstream. Now, if we're
Mhm.
talking about something like the thyroids, well, the gold standard for that is the blood. So it's kind of horses for courses. So anytime I'm dealing with anybody that has hormone issues, we're going to get full comprehensive profiles, both blood and saliva, so that we can take a look at that and see, okay, this is what we're dealing with, what matches your
Mhm.
symptoms that you're experiencing, and take a look from a functional perspective, not just here's a range. This is within normal. Let's say it's between 10 and 20, and you came in at 11. That is quote unquote normal, maybe.
Mhm.
So we need to read it as it is relevant to the whole profile, the whole picture. And I
Mhm.
think that's where there's a lot of disconnect in actual from a treatment protocol as well, because many doctors will look at the labs and just simply look at the reference ranges. They're not doing anything wrong.
Mhm.
They're simply looking, everything falls within normal. You're good. Okay. Well, as the woman sitting across the table or the man, whoever it is, you're like, I'm not good
Yeah.
because I have this and this and this, which is why I came to you.
Mhm.
But your labs are normal. So I don't know what else to do.
Mhm.
So that's what we see all day, every day. You just need
Yes,
to get deeper.
and just like you said, I think, for the people who actually are able to get a test, because I think that's also is an issue, is that if you're not physically sick, if they cannot like see that you are sick, or if you're not, whatever, if there's not a big issue, a lot of women have a hard time even requesting a hormone test and getting that actually done, which is where, people like you and I step in and we're like, look, like, you don't, like, if there's something wrong, like, fight for yourself, be your own advocate, because there's
Right.
ways that you can get hormone tests, and there's people out there, coaches out there, doctors out there, who will do this for you and help you actually learn and understand your body. I want to go back and touch a little bit on when you were talking about like the topical and makeup and all those things, because
Mhm.
from a nutrition standpoint, I work with clients and we get nutrition on point and all those things. And I've been doing this for 5 years. But up until I started actually focusing on my hormones, and at this point I needed a topical, not until the point I started using that topical, ointment to help my hormones, did I even think about it. Cause I'm like, holy shit, like, I can use this topical. It can help me feel better. Like, I'm feeling better. I'm noticing the results. What have I been doing over the last 33 years that's actually been hurting me? And like, it didn't really click for me until that point in time. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm done with the Bath and Body Works, like,
Right.
lotions.
I mean, you
I'm
smell pretty, but you're killing
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I'm not going to say I've gone like, switched everything, but I think just the more cognitive you are about the things that are affecting your physical and mental health, the more in control you are over all of it. Right. And that's ultimately what we want any of our clients or patients to have, is just and the education and the understanding of their specific body, and knowing that they can have that control back. They don't have
Absolutely.
to keep just
Absolutely.
ignoring those things. So let's kind of switch into, what do you feel are the biggest like symptoms, quote unquote symptoms? And I know we've kind of hit on a couple of them already for women, especially like those who might not even be thinking about hormones right now and are just saying like, oh, this is just normal. I'm busy. I have a lot going on. What are some things that we often like say are just normal things for women that are things that we should start actually taking seriously and look into?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to take you back just for a second here, because what you touched on was important as far as the topicals go. We have choices. Whether you're in a natural grocer, whether you're in a commercial store, whether you're in an Ulta, if you're looking for one particular product, there may be shelf after shelf after shelf of options, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just simply pick the one up that you're interested in, read the label. If there's a lot of numbers, FDC blue 50, red 35, if there are words that are this long that you can't pronounce, put that one back on the shelf, okay? Because that is simply nothing but a science experiment. So keep going down the list until you find one that you can actually pronounce all the ingredients that are in there, and you actually know for the most part what they are, and they don't have artificial flavors, they don't have artificial colors. So you can take a little bit more control, and you don't have to go hardcore one complete direction. Sunscreen is a classic example. We have more incidences of skin cancer since there was a massive push to use sunscreen. Well, there's petrochemicals and super carcinogenic toxins in 85% of the standard sun creams that are out there. So read those labels, because there are a lot of really effective zinc-based natural ones that aren't going to create those kinds of effects, because understand that every time you put that on your body, your skin is your largest organ in your body. It absorbs every single thing that you put on it, okay? So it makes sense that after years and years and years, all of that is going to continue to just absorb. It can't do anything but dysregulate the body's natural functions. So I think that was important that you touched on that, because you don't have to have a lot of education. It can just be as simple as, I have no idea what this is, or this, or this, or this. Put it down. Oh, I do know what most of these are. It's probably a better choice.
Love it. Yes. And while we're on that topic, that too remains true for food as well. For anyone who's listening,
100%.
that remains true for anything you're putting in your body, not just topicals. So
yes, very, very true. So back to your question, which was basically some of the warning signs, or potential warning signs, if we don't even recognize them as that. Unexpected weight gain or weight loss. Now, sometimes that can be quite rapid. Sometimes, and more often than not, it's a slower process. And it seems like in January you were doing well, and you're looking in the mirror in May and you're thinking, what happened? I don't know. I really don't know what happened. So that is certainly one. And looking at, are we taking birth controls? Do we have an IUD? Do we have things that we know are actually disrupting hormones? And how do we feel when we use those? How are our periods? Are our periods intermittent? Are they super intense? Are there a lot of cramps involved? Are they more often than they were? So any shifts in an ovulation cycle is a red flag that there is potentially some imbalance going on somewhere. And vaginal dryness, low libido, where things weren't. Some women have issues with that right from the get-go. But what we're trying to focus on is the red flags where things change. It's like, well, I was this way and now I'm not. And sometimes you're not even really paying attention, and it might be your husband saying, how come we don't have sex anymore? Well, what is up with this? And the woman sitting there may not even think that that's even an issue, because it's so not on her radar anymore, because things have shifted, that she looks at her husband and says, what are you talking about? And we're not going to turn this into a counseling session, but this is how a lot of issues begin.
100%.
Relationships. And it goes both ways. The woman can be like, he used to jump on me every day. And now, is he going out with a secretary, or is it just that he's completely not functional?
Mm-hmm.
And as a man, the last thing you want to admit is that your hormones might be out of balance or that you might be low T. That's like, oh no, we're not having
Yeah.
that conversation, which is why generally I see more women than I see men, because men aren't smart enough to want to get help and realize that the exact same symptoms that we're talking about here apply to men just the same as they apply to women. But the guys let their egos and their get in the way,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't want to have a conversation. So hopefully we've got some guys listening who might be thinking, maybe I can make a couple of little changes here as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I practice what I preach. I test my hormones every 3 months. And you know what? I make changes. I
Mm-hmm.
change my diet. I change my lifestyle. I'm in the gym 6 days a week. I want to continually improve. So the body is not static. It's dynamic. It's always changing. And it's either doing one of two things. It's growing and improving, or it's dying.
Mm-hmm.
There's no in the middle. You don't
Yeah.
get to just plateau. It's called homeostasis. The body's searching for balance and growth the whole time. So I think that is mood swings would be another one. You feel like you've got it all together, and then your kid says something that on any normal day wouldn't even bother you. And you're like, rah,
Yeah. Or you break down and cry. One of the two.
yes. What? or you throw a brick across the room,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So yeah, and then you sit there and you think, what just happened? Where did that come from? With women, another one can be breast tenderness. Obviously, I'm a big fan of women doing regular self-exams, because we are most, I would say probably 87% of the women that I test are estrogen dominant and low progesterone.
Mm-hmm.
And a good portion are low testosterone as well. So we want to make sure that we're not getting potential for those breast type cancers that can be more likely to show when those are out of balance like that. So, if you feel something that wasn't there,
Mm-hmm.
keep an eye on it. And just always, I'm super proactive rather than, well, we'll just leave it alone and see if it goes away. Just
Mm-hmm.
get it checked, because it could be
Yeah.
nothing. It could be something as simple as a benign cyst, a lipoma. They come up and they go down. But it is a sign, no matter, even if it is just a lipoma, it's a body's way of saying
Something's off.
is off, something is out of
Yes.
balance. So I think the biggest take home from that, Brenna, is just paying attention to the little things more often, as opposed to, let's say we have a start point here and we got to here, and now we have a plethora of symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes more challenging and much slower in order to be able to reverse that. Whereas if we got it with the first one or two that people were aware of, the journey is a lot simpler.
100%. And I think all these things that you're saying, for anyone who's listening, I think male or female, I want to validate for them, no matter how old you are, like deep down in your gut, most of us know something's off, right? Like we know, we just get busy. We try to like just ignore it and all those things. Like, if I don't care if you're 29 years old or 49 years old, if you feel not like yourself, if you're tired all the time, no matter how much you sleep, if you don't, if you have no libido, you don't ever want to have sex, like these are issues, right? Like these are things that are not normal. And even though society's telling you they're normal, they're not. You're not alone. And this is not anything you should ever be embarrassed about. Like more
Absolutely.
and more women are stepping up and saying, like, I had the same. I mean, I was 32 years old whenever, actually I was, backstory, after I had my son, it was a year after I had my son, I went to my doctor, my OB, and I said to her, I was like, something's off. Like, I don't ever want to have sex. And this is what she said to me. She said, men will have sex if the house is burning down around them. Women have to have everything in order. That was her answer. And I'm like, okay, so you're just telling me like, I need to like organize my life better? Like what? And I'm not even joking you that. And to this day, I've told multiple people this story. And to this day, I'm like, okay, like, I guess there's nothing I can do. And then I got further into my health journey. And last year, I was like, okay, something's, over the last year when I was trying to change my body composition, I'm like, something should be changing. Something's wrong here. And that's when I started, working with you. And now, like, I feel the most like myself I have in a really long time. And it's like, if I would have just, looked for that help outside of just ignoring them years ago, I'm like, where could I really be now? So just validating that for anyone who's listening, and that you're not alone. Like, this is nothing you should be embarrassed about. It
No.
just, and it's all fixable, whether it's nutrition or natural supplementation, no matter what it is, there's ways to get this fixed for you, and there's support and help there to do
Yeah.
that. So,
And I think it's important, what you just said there too, Brenda. I hear that so many times, so many times. And I want people to understand that if you don't like an answer that you get from any professional, whether it be a doctor, an accountant, an attorney,
mhm,
if something in your own mind is making you question what just came out of that person's mouth, get another opinion,
yeah,
dig deeper, because if you had changed nothing and just organized your life, nothing,
it's
nothing
so
would,
funny to me. I'm just like, why did I
right,
listen to that?
nothing would have changed, would it?
No,
And it would have just
no.
simply because you would have just given up, you would have taken the advice of a professional
Hmm.
and just rolled along. And
Hmm.
so I always say to my patients, my clients, whenever I'm speaking internationally, question. Nobody has all the right answers.
Hmm.
Oftentimes I will look at labs and I will have to call some colleagues and we collaborate because, one person does not have all the right answers and
Hmm.
somebody can miss something that somebody else can see. So that's a piece of advice I'd like to, tell everybody. Just it's okay to question.
Hmm. I love it. And I think, that too hits on, just for me and my program, how much of an asset you have been is, like, I know inside of like the functional medicine field, and coaches and people out there like us who are actually trying to advocate for women, is the people like us are out there that want to, like, that will fight for you. We'll work with whoever we need to work with. We'll collaborate. We'll do all the things to get you the answers. I
Absolutely.
think one of the most interesting things is, when we get my clients test results or hormone results back, we have seen everything from minor, like small changes need to be made, and someone who's 46 to someone who's 35 who has almost the worst labs that you said you've seen. So
Absolutely.
what's crazy to me is that really kind of discontinues the age theory when it comes to hormones, and how
100%.
important it is that if you know something's off, don't wait, like get help, and again, be your own advocate.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's super important because age is 100% irrelevant.
Hmm.
I've seen 100-year-olds who are everything is completely imbalanced and it's amazing. But then when you have a conversation with them, they have lived a clean, healthy lifestyle and taken care
Hmm.
of their body. So their body continues to show up for it in the manner that it was designed to. And then I've had a 17-year-old girl, and she had absolutely some of the worst labs that I have ever seen. And nobody wanted to. The pushback that I got from the parents on even testing her in the first place was crazy. And I
Hmm.
wasn't going to let that go. I just pushed, because I was
Yeah.
looking at this young lady sitting across my desk. And I said, this is no, you're the
Yeah.
same age as my daughter, and I don't want this for you.
Yeah.
So we pushed and we got some, so you've just got to, age doesn't matter. Things can just malfunction in the body, irrespective of
Hmm.
age. Just pay
Yeah.
attention.
I love that. And I again, just, it makes me so excited just to be connected with so many people who are willing to fight for women and men who truly don't know and want to take back their control over their health. Cause it's really, it's just amazing that we get to do this. Like, I think I'm always constantly reminding myself, like, holy cow, like, I get to help women and men, like, really see what they can do.
Well, you're
So
changing.
let's,
You're a catalyst in changing lives.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
And
and,
it's,
and there's no better gift than that. It's a
mhm,
gift for that we can give to others, but it's also a gift that we get given.
yeah.
That's what makes me want to get up in the morning. It's like, oh, how can I help today?
I know. And getting the messages and things from people and saying, holy, I've never felt better.
Right.
I, my relationship's better because of these
Yeah.
changes. And those are the things that, that a lot of people don't see that are really, again, like what you said, keep us going.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears just a little bit, because majority of the women who come to me and we start focusing on fat loss first, and then we, we get the hormone test sent, and you look over those. So let's talk about hormones a little bit from a fat burning perspective. So how do hormones really affect our body's ability to burn fat and or store fat? Maybe like
So,
layman's terms for those who are listening.
so I'm going to go back to the word homeostasis. The body wants to
Hmm.
be in balance. So we've all heard cortisol, stress hormone, belly fat hormone, right?
Hmm.
What to a degree that is true. So cortisol is one of the hormones in the body that's produced by the adrenal glands. And its key role is to regulate metabolism, control the stress response, the fight or flight, the feeling that you get when you've just been cut off on the highway. Your heart starts to beat faster, your pupils dilate. That is a stress response, and it's appropriate. Your body is getting a shot of adrenaline and cortisol in order to be able to deal with a situation that was different. But what we're seeing is many people's bodies are stuck in that state. They're stuck in that defense mechanism.
Hmm.
And when that happens, that's inappropriate. So the adrenal glands now become fatigued. They're overworking. What we start to see with that is lethargy during the day, and belly fat and hip and booty. That's where
Hmm.
it's all going to stay. And so if the adrenals particularly are significantly out of balance, and that's one of the reasons why we test that, we're going to struggle. We're always going to get results with making sure that the body stays well hydrated. We're always going to get results with having a mostly clean diet. We can all lose weight doing that, but we are
Hmm.
going to plateau. There is absolutely no way in order to break through if the hormones are dysfunctional, if they're fighting against each other.
Hmm.
If we're estrogen dominant, that is going to hold it's going to hold extra water. So from a scale weight perspective, when somebody gets on a scale, it may not necessarily even be fat that they're looking at, but psychologically, when they've gone up another 2 pounds, when they're doing quote unquote everything right,
Hmm.
it's not great for the mindset. So what does that do? That creates more stress, creates another rise in the cortisol. So the cycle, you almost at this point become that little mouse on the rolly wheel
Hmm.
inside the cage. And one dysfunction perpetuates another. So at this point, this is when most people will choose another diet.
Yep.
Right. And I'm
Yes.
sure the majority of your clients have said, I've tried Weight Watchers, Nutrislim, blah, blah. The list will
All
continue.
of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
because they were still are that little mouse on that little wheel, because they haven't got to the key of why something worked for a period of time, because it will. But
Hmm.
we're seeing metabolism usually slow, because most of these programs require you to count calories, watch things, and
Undereat.
undereat, significantly undereat.
Yes.
So again, we're making the whole journey stressful just by the very
Hmm.
nature of having to keep all of this accountable. And that drives the hormones even more out of balance. So it's key. You can't get sustainable weight loss and long-term weight loss with the hormones being out of balance. That's why testing, as far as I'm concerned, is mandatory for anyone that's really trying to make lifestyle shifts.
Yes.
Just as an example, my wife works with a lot of fertility doctors, and they have a BMI level. They will not
Hmm.
treat somebody unless that BMI is where it needs to be. Now, part of that is to do with the fact that the hormones are out of balance and that their fat percentage is way too significantly high.
Hmm.
So it goes across the board to all different aspects of your life. If the hormones are out of balance, you are going to be heavier than you want to be. And no amount of eating lettuce leaves and doing celery cleanses is going to change that.
Yes. Yeah. And this is why when it comes to like the diet culture, I think they're one of the main drivers for issues with women's hormones, because we start following these fad diets very early. This is why I'm such an advocate for a good, clean quality reverse diet, because it allows women to work with their body and giving its body the energy it needs to actually start regulating things on its own versus just starving it to death, right? And when we're starving our body, it's not going to be able to burn fat. It's not, it's not even going to be able to function, let
No.
alone, do anything additional that you're wanting it to do.
And when it is starving, Brenda, it drives the hormones even more out of balance. Brings the metabolism so low, and you've seen it all day, every day, as do I. People are skinny fat at this point. And what I mean by that is the body is much more prone to catabolize, or in other words, eat up muscle tissue than it is fat. Fat, intuitively, by the brain says, this is my fuel source. I'm going to keep that fat because I'm not sure when this person's going to give me my next meal. So I don't want to starve. But in the meantime, I'm going to eat some muscle because they don't really need that muscle anyway. So I'll use that for food. And that's what I mean by skinny fat. So somebody can be okay as far as a scale goes and have zero muscle tone because they've allowed their body to catabolize or eat itself, thinking they were doing the right thing.
Yep. And this is one of the biggest things women struggle with. And I see this day in and day out with my clients is, I'll give them, 1,300 to 1,400 calories, which me and is not very much, but to them, that's like so much that they're going to put on 10 pounds. And then, then they'll do good one day and I'll see, 1,300 or 1,400 on one day. And then it drops down to 1,200 or 800 calories. And I'm like, girl, like your body is like, oh, she's giving me food. Great. I'm going to hold on to this because she's probably not going to give me more the next day. I'm like, you're doing the complete opposite of what you want your body to do. Like consistency and good amount of clean quality calories and macros is going to help you burn fat. And that's just, women just can't understand that. But once they start seeing that happen, and that's when they start feeling better all over. It's not just the fat burning at that point. They start actually feeling better mentally and physically in other aspects of their life.
Yeah, inflammation is released. Endorphins and enkephalins are released. Those are the body's natural highs. We call it like the runner's high, that feeling of invigoration that you get when you've done something like that. That starts to just come into all day, every life when metabolically you start making those shifts. You remove some toxins, you remove the inflammation, you balance those hormones. It's almost like the body gets to go to the Bahamas for the first time in years.
Right. Right. It's so true. It's so true. And they, and inflammation is a huge thing too. And I think I just think in the US, inflammation is made to think this is normal. It's normal for your body to feel and look this way. And I think inflammation is a big precursor for a lot of issues that we face, not only health ways, but mentally as well. So I love that you hit on that inflammation piece. So, and I think I could talk to you forever on these subjects. So to not keep you for too long, just a couple more questions for you and those who are listening. For those who are listening, what do you feel are some things that women can start doing right now to start getting their bodies at least functioning in the right, start helping to support their hormones, even if they don't have access to a test or don't want to invest in a coach or something like that right now?
Let's start with food. Clean up the diet.
Yes.
Let's stay away from the whole inside of the grocery store. Go around the edge and leave. At that point, all you've done is you've picked up fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, meats, dairy, eggs, you're out. Okay. Anything in that central area is going to perpetuate your problems. It's going to continue to imbalance the hormones. It's going to continue to have you on that journey of high inflammation. It's going to probably have effects on your A1C, your blood sugar levels. You're ingesting carcinogens, you're ingesting neurotoxins, all of those things. So that's something that's super easy to do. Anybody can do that today. Also, most people are dehydrated. So just as a little rule of thumb, half of your body weight, right? Half of your body weight in fluid ounces of water is the minimum amount that you need every day in order to have hydration in your body. So let's just use me as an example. I'm 220 pounds. I need to have 110 ounces of water every single day. Now, for some people, that seems incredulous to even, I get all the time, oh, I have 2 or 3 glasses of water a day. Yeah. Wow. So you lose approximately a half to a full liter of water every single night when you're sleeping, through expiration in your breath and through perspiration. So every single person starts the day dehydrated. Now, what do most people, first thing they put in their mouth in the morning? Coffee.
Caffeine. That was my next question.
In the US, it's coffee, right? So here's what I do. This is my small Yeti, but I have one of the 32 ounces that I take to bed every night. I put a little bit of pink Himalayan salt in there and a little bit of fresh squeezed lemon. The reason for that is electrolytes. So that gives your body food without being food first thing in the morning. When my alarm clock goes, I will chug that whole thing. There's 32 ounces. Now, what that does is it wakes your brain up. It speeds up your metabolism. So now the minute your foot hits the ground, you are actually burning fat. Here's a little challenge. If anybody listening does nothing else, if you do not change a single thing in your life, continue to shop the middle of the grocery store, whatever it is you want to do. But if you will do at minimum 24 ounces of water, just like I described it, first thing in the morning, every single day for a month, I can promise you, you'll be 10 pounds lighter, changing nothing else. That just is an amazing, amazing reset. I think I got sidetracked there, Brenda, so you might have to bring me back in.
You're good. I actually want to ask another question on that, because I love that. So what are your thoughts, or what do you feel is the validity to drinking the water with or without the lemon, and then waiting at least an hour and a half to 2 hours before consuming caffeine? Do you feel like there is a increase in your body's ability to burn fat during that time if you wait to have the caffeine?
Interesting question. I hadn't thought about it before. I'm just running through that chemistry in my head here. I could see how it could be advantageous. Yes, because caffeine at the end of the day is just a stimulant, and it's also a diuretic. So it's going to dehydrate. So in order for us to actually just get that metabolism rising, because I don't know how many people just have black coffee. I suspect
Not very many, probably.
right. I'm an espresso fan. So, I mean, I'm not hating on coffee. I have a couple of espressos every single day, but it is at least an hour into my day. And I've started with that amount of water first, So particularly if you're the kind of person that's using real sugar, artificial sweeteners, whatever, almond milks, soy milks, creams in your coffees, then you definitely need to wait in order to get that best result, for sure.
Love that. Love that. So you hit on nutrition, water intake, and I think that might have been it that you've hit on so far for
hormones.
Hormones.
Okay. Move it or lose it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what about movement? Where's our movement?
That's my favorite. And I use that term in my practice all day, every day.
Yes.
People look at me, what do you mean move it or lose it? The body's designed to move. If you want to be a couch potato, your body will show up fatter and fatter and sicker and sicker. A little bit of movement is all you need to do. Super important as a woman to help prevent osteoporosis and osteopenia, to actually stress the bones. Okay. You don't have to become a bodybuilder overnight, but just know that you do have to lift some weights. It's called Wolf's Law. By stressing the bone, you actually create osteoblasts, which are the little cells that lay down more bone. Okay. And that's super, super important. So if you're just, let's say you've got an injury, or you're just new to actually trying to work out, you can simply get some 2 or 3 pound little dumbbells, some of those little weighted things that you can strap to your ankles. And while you're sitting on the couch watching TV, do some curls. Lift your legs up, do leg extensions. Think about what it is that you have around the house that can actually get you moving, even if you're just doing your activities of daily life, until you're ready to take that next step, which I believe everybody should do, and actually, do your cardio, which I hate personally, but it's important. and be right, and actually lift those weights, do some resistance training. And if you don't have access to gyms, you don't have money, you don't have motivation, that's not your thing, go buy some resistance bands. They're super cheap. You can do everything you need to do on your living room floor, but you've got to do it.
And that, 95% of my clients work out at home, and they use resistance bands and hip circles, the continuous resistance bands, and that's all. And the amount of muscle that they're building and the amount of fat that we're burning just by doing that is crazy. And people think, if you're going to lift, you're going to build muscle, you're going to look like, look like me or a bodybuilder or any of those things. It's not going to happen unless that's your
No,
goal, right? You
because
have
that
to
takes a
work
lot of work.
towards that. Yeah. Right. And and that's what people don't understand. And what I always tell people and women who come in is like, I want you to know, like, if you can build muscle, like there's scientific studies that show like you have your longevity is increased by 10 to 20 years. Like you don't want to be the frail lady at 70 that falls and breaks everything because she has literally no bone density and has no muscle on her body. And that's what will happen. And what happens to those people? They normally get sick, end up in the hospital. And what happens from there? Pneumonia, all these other things, right? Like and like, why did that happen? Right? What could you have done to prevent that? And that's where, as silly as it sounds, weights and walking, like just get some weights and go on walks.
That's
and it can truly transform your body, your mental health, like your longevity, all of the things.
100%.
So,
And it doesn't have to be a major thing. If you genuinely, and I don't personally believe this is the case for anybody, but if that's where your mind is, that you just don't have time, do what I said. Do things as you're walking around the house. Instead of, leaving the vacuuming, go and do the vacuuming, because there's exercise. You're utilizing so many different muscles and body parts to do that. So make the things, when you go to the grocery store, instead of driving around for 5 minutes to find the park that's right by the front door, purposefully go park in the back 40 and walk. And then when you leave, you have to push that cart over to your vehicle. So you can exercise, you can move, you can work out without it having to seem like that, just by making a few simple alterations like that.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm going to be the one to call everyone out and say, like, you definitely have time. Like you don't not.
Amen.
And I mean, if I was to say anyone who's listening right now, I would want you to pull up your phone and look at your settings and tell me how much time you spend on social media. Take a third of that and go on a walk, or go like do some abs on the floor or some push-ups or something. And that, I mean, you know what I mean? We all spend way too much time on social media, but I can almost call out every single person who's probably listening to this and say, you have time. You have time.
You do have time.
Your health, like, yeah. Well, I won't get into all that.
You don't have time not to have time. That's the way.
Exactly. Your health depends on it. Your life depends on it. Really, it does. It sounds dramatic, but it does.
It does.
So, all right, we are at our hour mark, and I don't want to keep you any longer, but for anyone who wants to get in contact with Dr. Shepherd, I will leave all of his information in the show notes for you. As always, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. We're definitely going to have to do this again, because I feel like there's so many different areas that we can get into. I definitely would like to get you on and kind of talk a little bit more about some of your books as well, because I think there's a lot of value, and I already have so many questions around them as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Shepherd. I appreciate you, and I look forward to having you back.
That's awesome. Thank you, Brenda. I'm loving the opportunity to work with you and helping your clients and helping some of your other coaches as well. So thank you for the opportunity, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you enjoyed this new episode, and if you did, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And as always, keep it unfiltered.